Big thanks to Juliana for coming on last week, talking about her book, The Grateful Water. It's a fantastic read, historical fiction, bit of thriller in there, bit of crime. Um, well worth the read. Juliana's podcast episode is well worth the listen. It's fantastic. Some oddities in there, like our Ireland's treatment of animals in the 19th century, something I never thought about before, but there you go. The eagle-eyed and not so eagle-eyed, if you may have noticed, the new setting, and possibly the new sound because it's very echoey, and I'm only after thinking of that. So last week was the first episode I recorded in my new place, but recorded in the room and the bedroom, sorry, where it's carpeted and there's soft furnishings and stuff in there, so it takes away some of the echo. In here, it's slightly louder with the wooden floors and wider space. The washing machine in the background. I was trying to hide that bin with the microphone, but you can just see it peeking out. Most importantly, though, over my shoulder, you can see the network poster that's always been in, well, since I got it, has always been in the shot. So we do have that, but this is the kind of layout that's more suited to having the podcast here than last week. I had it in my bedroom and it was a bit cramped. I'm really hoping people walk past my window this morning. It's as I record, it's 5:51, and they're going to look at it. Some maniac with headphones, a ring light, a microphone, talking at his computer. But there you go. It's the 21st century after all. There's something I wanted to talk on just a little bit, if you will indulge me. So, some of you who have listened to the podcast for a while now may be aware that sadly, one of my closest friends passed away back in March, due to a short battle with cancer. And his wife, his family have set up a GoFundMe, along with some of my friends and Dara's family friends, have been getting this going. So I want to read a little short piece out. As a local fundraising group from Giva, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, the Giva community in County Sligo, have created this page for the family of the late Dara McMunn, a married father of three young children. Dara sadly passed away from melanoma cancer just 6 months after his diagnosis and only a few days after his 42nd birthday. Dara, his wife Ara, and their three young children returned to Ireland from Mexico in 2022 to set up their new life in Giva, County Sligo. Although Dara was born and grew up in Rush, County Dublin, they moved to Giva to be close to to the home of Dara's mother, Marion Nee McDonough. Having spent so many holidays in Giva during his childhood, this community always had a special place for Dara. Diego 9, Sophie 5, and Chloe 2 settled so well into our community, and after enrolling in Giva National School and their play school, they soon joined the underage football at Giva GAA Club and Valley Rovers Soccer, where Dara helped out from time to time. Dara had just secured a job with Mayo Sligo Leitrim Education Training Board. Their dream move to the west of Ireland was developing well. However, one short year after arriving in Giva, the bottom fell out of the world when Dara was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma cancer, and he never got to take up the job he so badly needed. Dara underwent treatment, and with total determination to overcome his illness, he took every day as it came and spent every moment he could with his wife and three young children. His condition deteriorated, however, and while Ara was continuously by his bedside, Marion and her family stepped in to take care of the children. Ara's parents also travelled from Mexico to give their support. Following the devastating passing of Dara on the 11th of March 2024, Ara is now faced with an extremely challenging future in providing for her family in their newly adopted home. Without the support of Dara and a stable job, it was extremely difficult for her to meet the financial demands of providing for three small children. Ara, overwhelmed with grief, now finds herself coping with the loss of Dara while trying to stay strong for the children. She is now a single parent with so much grief and responsibility resting on her shoulders. But in her own words, she is going to try her best to carry out their plans to settle in Giva, where they decided they could provide the best future for their children. Ara and the McDonough family are deeply touched by the compassion and kindness they have experienced from the school, play school, football clubs, and the entire community of Giva. Please support Ara, Diego, Sophie, and Chloe at this very difficult time. Thank you for reading this message. We would be very grateful if you shared Dara's story. So I just want to point you towards the GoFundMe page. It's called Dara's Story. Dara is spelled Daragh. They've very nearly reached their target. It's been incredible how fast it's picked up. I was talking to Nails, who is a friend of mine and Dara's there during the week, and he was saying the same thing. They're very surprised how incredible the sport has been. One of the lads from Rush, who would be more friends with the lads. I don't know him that well, but I've met him a few times. Lovely guy, Al Cowser. He got in touch with Blind Boy actually, and Blind Boy shared in his story, which just helped a lot, obviously, to get the name and the GoFundMe page out there. And obviously, not that I would need to be asked, but we chatted, and I said I would mention on the podcast. So if you do, not even look, if you don't have the money, to put towards it, even a share of that story, the GoFundMe page on your profiles would help a lot. So thank you very much for listening. So I want to introduce this episode. What I wanted to, I suppose, talk about, to do this solo episode about was the move, and I spoke a little bit about it on my Instagram page and Facebook page, mentioning it and taking photos and stuff like that, and kind of look the good side of it, the look at how many books I have and all that nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Um, but like the decision for me to move was not, I guess you would call. I hope the sound isn't too bad. It sounds bad in my ears. Um, the decision to move was not my kind of decision. I don't think I would have moved. I think I was, I gave out a little bit about having to cycle in the rain and all that kind of stuff. But I had quite a bit of space where I was. It was relatively cheap. I'm not rolling in cash. But it suited me down to the ground in that sense. I had my own space without being alone. If I needed anybody, there's always somebody downstairs. So that was kind of reassuring in a way. But it was a few months ago I was asked to move by my landlady. Her partner had moved into the house, and they're planning on getting married next year. So I was asked, I think it's time you kind of maybe move. Do you want to? Well, the conversation was me and her in the kitchen, and she did say, I just want my house back, which I don't mind telling you, was something that kind of hurt me a little bit. I know what you're thinking. What a snowflake. No, but because the suggestion that somebody wants their house back was, well, a suggestion that you took it from them, or that you were somehow holding it from them. Even though you lived there for 15 years, and in a kind of a sense, there was a teamwork situation there. Like if I would take the bins out, or get the turf, bring the turf across in the shed and light the fires and all that stuff. So it wasn't just like I was sitting upstairs and on my arse, like not doing all of those kind of smaller things. And I'm very tidy person, very clean person. So there was never any mess left behind. Um, so that was kind of hurtful. And I actually wrote a song about it. I haven't. It's actually called "I Just Want My House Back." Um, it's very self-explanatory. Not very good at subtlety or shade when it comes to songwriting. But anyway, so yeah, so I had that. So that happened like a few months ago, and then so I'm on daft.ie, looking, and there's very little on there. If you've been in the house market, especially when it comes to renting, there isn't a lot like on the actual, the page. And if there is, they're very expensive. And like I said, it was my rent wasn't very high out there, so I was going to take a huge jump, whether I liked it or not, in rent, and then in bills and all that kind of, the additional things. Um, so then a few weeks ago, it was suggested again how, like, when somebody says, "How's the house hunting going?" It's kind of a thing of like, are you ready to go yet? So the kind of push came on, whether it was meant or not. It's in the back of your mind where you're like, I have to get a move on now, because I feel that they no longer want me there now. It's time to like get your arse in gear. And I did feel that kind of pressure towards it. And just out of pure luck, I said it to Martin, my boss, the coach, and he rang a friend of his, Shane, who's now my landlord, and he said he knew that Shane had a couple of places, and there was one in town then there might be a room. Now, if I had to go for a room, I would have gone for a room. You know, it was kind of the circumstances where I was like, I just have to go now. It's time. Like I don't have um I don't have time to play around anymore. I have to actually do it. So that he rang him, and then Shane just happened to be moving out of this place that day, and was just about to put up some pictures on Instagram to say he was, going to rent out this place. So I got in touch with Shane, came down, had a look, and it's a lovely spot. I know you can see the background of that, like, but it's a lovely apartment. It's so quiet. I finally, after how long am I here? Maybe a week or two, I've realized that the reason it's so quiet up above me is that it's like a family with an elderly parent with them, so there's not going to be any part wildness. And my bed is on against the wall where there's an alley in between, so there's not going to be any kind of noise in there. And if like so important for me is sleep, obviously, because it if I don't get sleep, I get quite anxious. So to have somewhere I know I'm not going to have my you know sleep ruined is really important. And it's so quiet around the place in general, not just upstairs. Um, so obviously I said to Shane, I said I'll take the place. Kind of move in at the weekend. He was obviously grand with that. And then I knew then for the days leading up to it that my anxiety was going to be through the roof because I was trying to organize in my head the things that everybody has to do when they move. But there's you know, say for instance, just TV, Sky, whatever you want to get, uh, internet, make sure the electricity is swapped over. Things that people take for granted because they just call up and do it. But for me, like talking on the phone is the worst thing possible. Like I might get into that a little bit later on, but because I had to do these things. But the move, the actual moving, physical moving was so I started packing my bags for the move, and my younger brother Simon dropped over some boxes, and it was 7 boxes, and I was thinking I don't even know what I can put in this that makes it even look like I've tried to begin moving. I just had no clue what I could actually put in there. Um, the lighting is really bad in here. There's actually the sun's coming in there, but my face has gone really dark. I should probably turn on that lamp, but it'll be all right for today. I'll figure stuff out. Don't worry, we're working things out, and so throwing stuff out as well. I'm not a hoarder in any sense of the word, but I have certain things that are maybe not dear to me. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but certainly things that are there where I kind of like have so long that you're like, oh, I can't throw that. I have that 20 years. You haven't seen it in 20 years. It's been in a box. It doesn't matter. So I had to make some decisions, but to be honest, I didn't throw that me out. So the day of the move, then my my brother Alan and his daughter Sophie, my niece, who's just turned 15. So she turns up with her dad, and my younger brother turns up with this big van, really like really big van, which we really needed. So we started taking the stuff down the stairs, up, down. So the process of it became right. We need to get 3 or 4 suitcases. We need to fill suitcases. Walk down after this is after the first trip. Sorry. So on the first trip, we brought the musical instruments, this desk that I'm on, that I'm using here, my TV, the piano, everything that was kind of big and bulky went in the van the first. And my brother filled out he's got like 4 kids, so he's got one of those people carriers. So that was packed up. We drove down, we emptied everything out. The only thing I needed, like, make sure I had help settling into the proper spot was the piano because I can't move that by myself. So that was bang over in the corner. Right. On to the second movement. When you go upstairs, I felt embarrassed, right? And I'll tell you why I felt embarrassed after I have this sip of water. I felt so embarrassed about the amount of books and DVDs I had because I'm asking, it got very dark. Maybe if I move this here. I'm asking people to do this, to help me out with this stuff. 1 second. Is that better? It's a little better. It's in my glasses now, though. So I'm asking people to help me out with this stuff, and I'm taking the piss a little bit. I've just so many books, so many DVDs, and I took a picture on my Instagram. So if you follow it, you've seen it. It's just there's a van just packed with stuff, just absolutely wedged, and Oh, I know what's wrong here. The light bulb over my head isn't working. So all the ones around me are, but the light one isn't. Um, so by this point, we just decided just to start throwing everything in the back of the van, like literally throwing books and DVDs in, because we couldn't like I didn't want to have my brother make 2 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs, whatever in the van, because he had to get back and he was going out. They've all my brothers have got kids, and I'm like, I've got all the time in the world. So like my older brother and his daughter went off. So it's just me and my brother Simon, and we've got the van backed up to the apartment, right? And we've got this 2 suitcases, and we're just throwing stuff in, dumping it, throwing it, dumping it. I literally had in this front room here, I had piles of books and like DVDs, just piles. Like that's not exaggeration. Either side of the couch, in there's a spare room in there, right? Which is great to have actually, because my mom got to stay down here the other night, and it's nice to have somewhere where other people can come and stay. But I just threw the stuff on the bed, on the floor. It's just spilling out everywhere. Um, and for someone who's particularly tidy and has got the OCD tendencies, this is like a walking nightmare. The idea that I had this. But my back was broke. I really was sore. And Simon had gone by about 12. So I was only 12 in the day, and I had to kind of clear out spaces where I could make routes so I could walk to and from the kitchen and to the back to the couch, and from the couch out through the hallway, all these little routes that I could get through. And, in the preceding week, then decided to pick away at these things as best as I could without overdoing it. But I was working as well, and we had one of the lads, the coach is keen, he was out, he was unwell. So I had to do a few more hours as did Martin. So we were trying to cover that, and we are trying to make sure that I was getting my stuff in. And it was challenging, and my anxiety was absolutely through the roof, and I felt the tiredness of that. And it's hard to figure whether it was the tiredness of actual anxiety, or whether it was just physical tiredness from trying to train, trying to work, trying to clear all the spaces the way I wanted it to be. Having the podcast in the bedroom, but not, the much better acoustics than it is here now. And I'm gonna have to listen back to this episode. It'll be different when I have guests on, because I won't be talking as much, so I'm not as concerned. But when I'm doing the solos, it sounds kind of echoey to me in my ears at the moment. But that's 3 times I've brought it up, and I need to stop. Um, yeah. So when Simon left, though, so going back to that, right? So Simon left at about 12 o'clock, and I felt this kind of absolute hollowness in my chest, like um, obviously kind of, if it's a hollowness, it's kind of void, but this kind of sense of loneliness, as if now I was on my own again. So people who follow the podcast will know the last time I lived on my own 15 years ago, I had a mental breakdown. Uh, Although circumstances are a lot different this time, I've gone through so much therapy. I'm on medication. My my physical health is a lot better. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I don't smoke weed anymore. Um, I I have coping mechanisms. I've got family and friend support around me that I can kind of tap into at all times, and even got a text from shout out to Slevy. I will say the nickname. Shout out to Slevy for on the day of the move, on the evening, sent a message to say that herself and her husband are just around the corner. If I freak out or if I feel frazzled and I need to call around, just do. And her husband is my driving instructor as well. And that means an awful lot. Like that kind of thing is it goes to show me that I've surrounded myself with the right people, and that I'm doing the right thing in the way I train and coach and live my life at the moment. So there is that, but I can't help, feeling that. I couldn't help but feeling that hollowness at the time. But the idea was just to keep busy for as much as I needed to rid myself of the hollowness, and then I could get on with my day. And so I did. Like, I'm now alone, in the sense of when I come home and I turn out the light and I'm in bed, I'm alone. But the rest of the day and the rest of my life is surrounded by people, and good people as well. And people who understand. I don't need to begin from the beginning with a lot of people anymore. I don't need to say, "Oh, I had a mental breakdown 15 years ago." I don't. A lot of people know that. Um, So it helps like that you're not leading in with that because there's always a certain awkwardness to begin with that. It just comes with it. Um, so yeah, the kind of idea to a couple of people said it to me about taking things slowly, about that idea of moving things. It was actually Slevy who said to me about who is a therapist, by the way. I should have mentioned that a bit earlier. Um, who mentioned about the idea of doing something for an hour, giving yourself an hour to tidy a certain space in a room, right? And when that hour is finished, don't dwell on that space, but go to a different room or different space in the house and sit there and have your peace because you're in a cleaner, tidier environment. And then maybe a couple of hours later, go back or whatever. But it was a really good piece of advice, and it was something that maybe I don't know if I'd heard it before. I'm not too sure. Well, this is like I think the sun is just moving around, obviously, into the window, but I'm lit up now quite well. But in that space too, I don't know if I'd heard it before, but it kind of confirmed at least that this was okay to do and that I didn't need to do it all at once. Um, and I was doing it like as I said, I was doing it between shifts, and I think uh, if I hadn't been working as much for cover or something, things might have been a little bit different. But because I was doing between shifts, I felt I wasn't really getting the time to actually sit down and do the usual things. And when I say usual things, things like reading and it's, things that I enjoy doing, like maybe even watching it. I think I've only watched one film since I moved in here, which is a very small amount for me. But it started to slowly kind of come together, and you started to kind of see the character of the place through my eyes or through my design. Putting up, hanging up pictures. I think I did that. Like one of the first things I did was hang up the pictures on the wall because uh, that is your some of that is your personality. Some of it is just a picture, like, but some of it is your personality. Some of it is what the podcast, like I was saying about the network poster being there. You can see the Reservoir Dogs one up here. Um, you can see a washing machine there and a bin. But getting the character of the place, making it your own. Um, and I think after having to live with the fact that certain things are now in a new space, for someone with OCD and likes things in their place, tidy, straight lines, I had to find a new space for everything, and that's quite a messed up. That's quite a head mess up. A head. I didn't want to use the bad language, but uh, a mind f. We'll say a mind f. Um, that's something that had a place for you for 12 years, 10 years, whatever, and now you have to find a new spot for it. That's a weird, like it doesn't sound like a weird thing, but if you have OCD, that's a very strange thing. To do that with one thing is something, but to do it with everything is a different story. I got up out of bed today. I'm recording this on the Friday before this comes out, and I woke up on Tuesday and I sat on the edge of my bed to put on my socks. And I had this feeling like if you see something in a film where there's something rushing towards, like when they edit and the music and everything comes and all these images and like that kind of thing. I can't really explain it, but obviously it happened. But all the kind of stuff that I was struggling with and all the things that were kind of upsetting me and annoying me just came to a fore. And I thought, oh Christ, it just felt for a minute or two, it felt really scary. Like, oh God, I can't handle this. Um, Even though I just got out of bed and I had had a good sleep, it wasn't anything to do with that. It was like pure stress, pure anxiety, obviously. Um, pure, uh, I would imagine fear of the unknown and the future of what was to come. Uh, Even like, was I dealing with all of this well? Because it's easy to think on the surface you're grand, but you're really struggling. The whole someone said it there last week on the episode or a week two ago, a couple of weeks ago about the swan and that, and it felt a bit like that. Excuse me. So, and then you've got finances thing, the financial thing. where your rent has taken a huge jump, like, 3, 4 times what it was in the space of a week, and you've got to pay a big lump. You got to pay the first month rent. You got to pay the deposit. By the way, um, when you look at prices on Daft and you look at you can get rooms for a certain price, this place is actually a very good price. It's just a huge jump for me. And like for people who don't know that I'm on like a disability payment, and then I obviously make up for I can work a certain amount of hours in the gym to make up a bit of extra money. I can only do so much on that. Um, so for me, the financial thing is a worry as well. So all of a sudden, I went from just kind of coasting through and handing over my money once a week, and not having to deal with bills was an important thing, because it kind of came out of the rent I was paying. So now, I had to set up the gas, set up the ESB. I set up the Sky, which I haven't. I only did that yesterday. It won't arrive. It hasn't arrived yet. But all of that becomes this. I need to like I have to recharge this now. I just, oh God, I have to recharge this now. All of a sudden, this becomes like I'm big into numbers and uh, just constantly. If you ever notice me in the gym, I'm in my coaching position as someone who's constantly looking at the watch, the time, the clock on the wall, the timer. I always looking at it, constantly checking. That's just an obsession with the idea of numbers and or how they move, or how I'm going to miss. Say if the workout is 15 minutes, if it goes over by a second, I'm annoyed because I missed that second. I should have called time in exactly 15 minutes. Doesn't mean a lot to some people, but to others, they completely understand it. So for me, I'm always thinking about numbers now in the sense of, right, my thousand, the rent, it comes out here. The ESB will be, a few weeks from now. Sky and the Sky, I rang Sky yesterday. He was a sound guy, actually, the fellow I was talking to be fair to me, even asking about my podcast, everything. No, I didn't just say, by the way, I just want you to know, I didn't ring up and this fellow was like, "Hi, I'm Barry from Sky." Anyway, listen, Barry, I don't know if you heard about my podcast, the Wheatley. It's not the way it came up. He asked me what I used the podcast for and what was the most important. Sorry, he asked what I used the internet for and what was the most important reason that you'd need a high speed internet. And I told him I have a podcast, and when I'm talking to people live or on Zoom, I want the podcast to work well and to run fast. And that's why. So I didn't just bring it up. But anyway, we were talking and he said, okay, but so this your internet's being and Sky is being cancelled on the 15th, so we can't run a line through it till the 17th, which is a Monday. Um, so immediately, like we're out of the internet for a few days. So I'm all of a sudden I had this like, oh geez, what about the podcast? I have to record with someone here and I have to fit this in there. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna have to do two solo ones back to back. But that doesn't really matter to most people. But to me, it's immediately another thing. Then it's like, oh Christ. But I said to my mom yesterday on the phone, this is all sorted now. I've sorted all those kind of things out, and now I can kind of get on with knowing in the next few weeks, next few months, how much everything is going to cost, so I can figure out like food wise, or like if you can treat yourself to a lunch on a Friday out or whatever it might be. All of that comes into play. I'm not a cheapskate or anything like that, but I also am smart enough to know that I can't blow all my money on an apartment for a year and then end up living with four people in a house. I don't want that to happen. I'm 42 years of age. I'm not going to do that. Is it time for me to live on my own? Probably is. It probably is the right time. But I need to work out on finances and all these things, what I can do. And so you can buy me a car. I'm only messing. Anyway, um, so another thing that was I know people might have heard me talking about sleeping with the light on, and I did that for quite a bit after my diagnosis and my really my really poor mental health. I used to sleep with the light on because you'd have something to focus on. So if you have a picture on the wall or something, you can start thinking about song lyrics connected with the sun or whatever. Doesn't really matter. It's just something to focus your mind on. So I was wondering about the silence in the day because I remember that in the last apartment. I remember like forget about external noise. I'm just talking about within the apartment. Like the hum of the fridge, for instance, that might be the only thing that's on. Um, Now I do like to have the TV on a mute, even though I'm trying not to do that because it's electricity. But so the sound of silence in the apartment and and reading is so nice. I love that because it's so to focus on the actual the words and everything within the book and not have to worry about the noise around. Um, the silence at night, like I said, really nice. But every every so often, kind of striking and something that where most of the time it's not something you're thinking about. You're just thinking about the book you're reading or whatever. All of a sudden, this idea that there is silence and there's nothing in and around you. But knowing that I have people around me, where they live and the gym and all that. The gym, people don't know who's like, it's about 2 or 3 minutes on the bike compared to what it was 20 before that. So that's a big, I don't know why I'm so thirsty. Um, it's a big thing, to have that kind of backup support. Um, yeah, and I'm gonna have situations. So my mom stayed last weekend, which was the first. So it was that was a week into the apartment, and so she came down. What was night? The Champions League final was on that night. Um, and we watched that. But I felt kind of ill at ease, not with my mom or anything like that, but just because. So what had happened in that week was I had moved things to where I wanted them to be. Nobody else had been in the apartment to look at it or anything like that. So I knew where everything needed to go and whatever. And there were certain things I hadn't questioned about the apartment, like why do I have to turn this switch on to use the shower or whatever? When it was an electric shower, like things that you don't know. What do I know about houses? And then my mom was asking the questions I didn't really ask, and then I was kind of getting a bit flustered because I was like, "You want to know what the answer is, but you're like, I don't know." It's not a good thing not to know. These I should know. I mean, I've been here, but I didn't know, and I was kind of flustered and kind of, I was a bit moody, and uh, I don't know what it was like. I didn't. I'm sure she picked up on it, but my mom's very forgiving of my moods. Um, but it was just something that maybe I'll figure it out now the next time someone stays or next time someone is over. Um, my friend, I had a couple of people come over actually, to be fair. Uh, I forgot about that for an hour or two just to see the apartment and Joanne and Karen and Donna like so they came over just to have a look in that and like I think everything I'm just looking over my shoulder and I think everything is in the place I want it to be, but when people start looking at it and question it, you're like, yeah, why is that there? Or what is that thing for? What's that? What's that handle on that door there for? Or what's the light switch? Why is it facing that way when it should be facing the other way? You know what I mean? That kind of stuff that you don't see because I was so busy getting places for everything. The only thing that's actually bothered me, see, I'll just point at it. See this or this that black TV stand there. That's the only thing that is out of place and doesn't have a place at the moment. I prefer it not to be there. It could give me more room here. But also my TV, see, my TV is hanging up over there now. It doesn't need a stand. So that's annoying me. And the drum set isn't set up because I thought it's really unfair. It's an electric set, so it's not exactly the same, noise levels or something. But I didn't want to be annoying the neighbors. But it may, if I needed at any point, I'd be able to take it out and have it on the floor and set up the full rig or whatever. So when people are here, I was kind of antsy and nervous, and I don't, part of me knows what that is, but a lot of doesn't. Um, and like, what harm can people really do to your space? It's funny, but like, so forgetting about my mom and my friends coming over, one by one. Like people had said, "Oh, what about the like a house warmer and stuff?" And that a house warmer is a lovely idea for most people. But like for a housewarming for me is like, why are you picking that up? Oh no, don't pick that up. Oh, don't pick the book up. No, leave that there. That's where it's supposed to go. That kind of thing. And then people sitting on cushions, pulling them out of the way and throwing. That is mental for me in my head. Where most people are like, then we can clean it up in the morning. like I'd love to have the people who asked, all sound people, lovely people. I'd love to have them over for a drink. But I'm also conscious of neighbours. I don't want to annoy the neighbours after about 2 weeks in, you know. Um, but for me, the housewarming thing it is a lovely idea. Who do you invite even? I don't know. Um, I have no idea. It's so the thing about like being in a gym environment with all the people, whether you work with them or work for them or train with them, like where does the invitations end? You know, I can't. I can only have so many people over. Yeah, I can't put up this extended or this invitation where everybody could turn up because then everybody will turn up, and then you've no space for them, and then you're out on the path and everything. Your neighbors are like sick of you already. You know. Um. Another thing, it's a nice saying. It's a saying that people have used. This will be the making of you. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure even sure what the making of someone is. You know, have some people been made? Like unless you're someone like Cristiano Ronaldo, who you're like, oh yeah, he should have always been a footballer. What? Yeah, it's like, what did I want to be when I was growing up? I don't know. Certainly not like what I am now. Right. That's That's not slight. I don't mean that in a slight way. I just mean it's like I didn't want to be a coach of anything when I was growing up. Um, I don't know what I wanted to be, and it becoming the making of me, and maybe it will. Maybe it will change me for the good. Maybe that whole thing of me living on my own and fearing that I would go down the path of a mental breakdown, and and terrible things can happen. And it's like I talked about before about what my brain wanted me to do all those years ago, just 15 years ago, actually, what mad. Um, like who's to say it won't happen again? Who's to say it will? It's just we don't know, but this could be it could remove that fear for me of that you're able to live alone, and maybe I won't be living on my own for that in 2 years' time, but for now it could be the kind of something that closes a chapter. I felt I should read that Ben Cullen book on Columbine. That was the book I was reading when I had the mental breakdown, and I put it down to that book. Silly me, instead of putting it down to severe anxiety, depression, and just alcohol abuse. You know what I mean? Well, it was definitely the book, that kind of thing. So, but we're all looking for the easiest thing. You don't want to blame yourself because you were the one who drank the alcohol. Um, at least you can see you didn't write the book. Uh, so yeah, so what's next then? Like I said, I've got everything kind of organized the way I'd like it to be. Um, but now I need to get back into the music side of things, and I played a little Pink Moon by Pink Moon by Pink Floyd, Pink Moon by Nick Drake yesterday on the piano. I put it up online, and look, I said I was going to put up make a YouTube channel, and I still am going to make a YouTube channel, by the way, for my music. I just need to get all this. I needed to get all this sorted. It came at the wrong time for that, and then it's back into kind of writing the songs. I've written a lot of the songs, but I need to add the bass parts and everything else, the different parts to the harmonies and stuff. So it's going to take a while. And anybody who keeps asking how's the recording going, I haven't started recording yet. I need to finish the writing and then, um, but I actually think the benefit of having the desk out here is that the laptop is there and the synths are just there, so I can actually have stuff on this laptop here, have my bass guitar here, my acoustic, and be surrounded by the electronic side of it as well as the actual acoustic side and the manual writing of the lyric side, that I can have it all in one space. And you can't actually see, but there is, it's a really nice space, this here. It's quite big. It's really nice now with the sun coming in the window, but it's quite big and I've got the space for all the instruments. So I can quietly go about my business. I probably won't be playing the drums in here now, but I could do that down in the gym if I like. But I'm looking forward to that. And I think I wonder sometimes if I should write short stories. I probably say this often and too often. Should I write short stories? I probably should, continue to do it every so often, just to use another part of my brain. I think it does help with lyrics as well because obviously you need to expand on your language with short stories, and I think that helps to expand on your language with songwriting. I don't really know. It's so peculiar the last 3 months, 4 months of songwriting that I've been able to write such personal songs, about subject matters that are actually happening right now, like the move, um, like misunderstandings between friends, like the move. But I think it's a lot to do with a lot of my inner anxieties about the move and things like that. Um, so yeah, like I said, like there's more the positives outweigh the negatives, and I've gone through the hard part of it all, um, and now I just need to kind of settle down and be be at peace that I'm on my own now. I have actually been sleeping quite well. There was only one night I couldn't really sleep. Um, to go from the country for 15 years with no noise at all, except the TV downstairs, which is always loud. But no need for that. Um, but apart from that, like it's quiet. It's very odd. Um, that was it was a root of a certain amount of anxiety within me about someone being next door or above me, just being the music pumping out at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm not a confrontational person, but I think I'd come to a point where I'd have to just ask them, could they turn it down? Not in any aggressive way. I'm not like that at all, but in a hey neighbor kind of way. Um, but who knows? Not everybody responds to that kind of stuff. So yeah, next week I will probably be doing a podcast on my own again. I don't know what about yet, but I'll need to do it during the week to make sure that there's no interruptions with regard to the internet. Look, if the internet is a problem, I can always go down to the gym, record from the office in there. I prefer not to. It'll be a lot handier not to, but if I need to, I will. A couple of people set up to come on anyway, so we can get them going. Um, uh, Obviously, I want to say thanks to my mom, my two brothers, and my niece. Um, two brothers and my niece put in a amazing shift on the morning of the move, and thank you so much for doing that. Um, to them, uh, thanks to John for the old YouTube stuff. A big thanks, obviously, to my mom, my dad, my granddad, and Calvin, as always. Calvin's got his film sorted, actually, by the way, or he said he's got his film finished. I don't know if he's finished recording or he's finished writing it, but I saw a post up the other day about it, and good on him. And looking forward to kind of maybe collaborating with him sometime in the future. Sub to us on YouTube if you would, or on Instagram, Facebook, also Spotify, Apple, Anchor, etc. Please remember to, if you can, possibly donate to the fundraiser, Dara's story. That would be very we'd be all very grateful for that because he was a gentleman, a beautiful soul as is his wife. Um, so yeah, if you can do that, please do. Um, yeah, thanks very much for listening to me today. I had a few things to get off my chest. I think I did that. I think I did all right. Didn't offend anyone, hopefully. Um, but yeah, hopefully this isn't too echoey. And if it is, just remember when there's a guest on, there'll be less of me. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. Bye.